The Galaxy S8 has been considered to be one of the best, if not the best smartphone released this year. In our initial review, besides some of the software features, we loved practically everything about this phone, but it's been a little over 4 months now since its first release, and I wanted to see if it still holds up to the hype. Before we begin, I do want to clarify that my long-term experience has only been with the regular Galaxy S8 and not the S8 Plus. Even though they're pretty much the same phone, it does have a bigger display at 6.2 inches and a little more battery capacity at 3500 mAh. Also, I have the US model, so if you're from a different country, you may have a different processor known as the Exynos. So results may vary, but I'm sure your experience may not be drastically different from mine. The phone looks fantastic. It's very comfortable, perfect for one-handed use, and it always catches people's attention when I have it out on a table. The edges have the perfect curvage, and there are no problems with grip detection unlike last year's S7 Edge. The color scheme adds the cherry on top, as the deep black makes the phone look like a solid glass pebble. The all-around glass encasing gives it that premium feel, but you do have to be careful. In my first 2 weeks of testing, I accidentally dropped the phone from a desk height of around 3 feet, and the back panel completely shattered. It was pretty devastating, so I had to get a replacement. Since then, I've been rocking one of Samsung's cases known as the Clearview standing cover, and when I didn't rock the cover, I always had a skin from D-Brand. This got rid of the smudging problem, kept it from getting scratch marks, and gave the phone a personalized look. I'll drop a link to both products if you also want to check them out. In the end, the design of this phone is still the best one on a smartphone yet, in my opinion. Another amazing feature that I love about this phone is the display. Even though it's really big at 5.8 inches, it was easy to hold as it only increased by height and not by width when compared to the S7. With very small bezels, you get a great screen to body ratio, and it makes the phone look like it's all screen with no buttons, branding, or unnecessary chins. The aspect ratio did change to a whopping 18.5 by 9, which provided more information while navigating through apps. And even though the black bars did occasionally appear while watching videos or in older incompatible apps, Samsung made it really easy to extend them to fit the entire screen. It has great viewing angles, it is very sharp and saturated when using adaptive display in the settings, and the colors are extremely deep and natural when compared to other smartphones. Samsung flagships have always taken the crown for the best looking screen on a smartphone, and this year is no different. Now, the fingerprint sensor is something Samsung can improve upon. It's on the back since the narrow bezels didn't leave any room, but it was placed right next to the rear camera. When I first made a video on this phone, I said I would have preferred it to be right underneath the lens like on the LG G6, and I still stand by that point. It also unlocks slower than most of the other devices I used this year. I'd say the only thing it has going for itself is it recognizes well. It's not the worst fingerprint scanner, but it's not the best either. It's just okay. As for the software, it's still on Android 7.0 with Samsung's Grace UX on top, and hopefully Samsung will jump straight to Android Oreo. Still, the software provides a good experience as it's feature-packed, and it's cleaner and closer to stock Android than older versions of TouchWiz. My favorite features would have to be the customizable virtual nav bar, always on display, infinity live wallpapers, separate app sound to make sure that my Spotify media is the only thing playing on my Bluetooth speaker, while everything else plays through my phone speaker, and dual audio, which gives you the option of playing audio through 2 Bluetooth devices at once. There's plenty more things you can do with this phone, but there are some features that Samsung can do without. One of those features is Bixby. I'm sure there's people out there who don't mind it and actually use it, but it is really just an alternative to Google services. The only reason I didn't use any of Bixby services is because Bixby Home limits you down to Samsung apps, with no real integration of Google apps, which is what I base my life around. Bixby Reminders has plenty of competition that will remind you to do tasks in a much better way and have a more powerful integration, and Bixby Vision is still a hit or miss situation. Bixby Voice is the only feature I enjoyed, which for the most part works well in providing what you need via voice commands. It can do simple tasks like toggling stuff in the settings, and can also answer some random questions, but it also works with several of Samsung's apps and popular third-party apps. I usually don't use voice assistants to begin with, but Bixby Voice is not that bad, especially since it can complete certain tasks that Google Assistant can't. The performance has also held up well. After all, it does have the Snapdragon 835 chipset with 4GB of RAM. Application reload time is quick, animations are smooth, and navigating through apps is snappy. It doesn't feel as fast as the OnePlus 5, but that's obviously due to the feature-loaded software and high display resolution, making the processor do some very heavy lifting. It didn't slow down though, even after the 4 months, so that's good. The camera on the back is still a great shooter, even though it's not following the trend of dual lenses and they've stuck with most of the same specs found on the Galaxy S7. I think the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They did, however, update the sensor and improve the image processing to increase picture quality. Photos in both bright and low light situations look fantastic with great detail, contrast, color accuracy, and a smoother tone. I will say that I did expect it to shoot faster and open up quicker since it does have the new Spectre ISP from the Snapdragon chipset, and Samsung's HDR is not as good as Google's HDR Plus, as you'll still get blown out highlights in rare situations. Aside from that, the camera is still great as expected, and no matter where you are, this shooter will not disappoint. Handling all these features and thousands of pixels is a 3000 mAh battery, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm actually satisfied with the results. It usually got me around 4 to 5 hours of screen on time, and it had no problem lasting me the entire day with heavy usage. I usually have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, and always on display enabled mostly throughout the day. Again, the SA Plus has an extra 500 mAh, so if you're looking for the extra juice, you may want to consider that bigger phone. Both the SA and SA Plus have USB Type-C, Samsung's adaptive fast charge technology based on Qualcomm's Quick Charge 2.0, and fast wireless charging so you can get a full charge pretty quickly. Other things to note is that it's water resistant with an IP68 certification, still has NFC, a headphone jack, heart rate monitor, 64GB of internal storage with an SD card slot for expandable storage, supports all 4 major US carriers, and has Gorilla Glass 5 all around. All great features we love seeing on a flagship, and you aren't really missing any huge features that other devices have. But it will cost you $750 here in the US, which is one of the more expensive smartphones you can buy. And again, the SA Plus is $100 extra. With my experience, I do find the pricing to be justifiable as it does have all the latest specs and some of the best features that no other phone does better, including the design and display. I'd say the only thing holding this phone back from its competitors is some of the software features and fingerprint sensor. That's the revisit of the Galaxy S8. Let me know in the comments what you think about this flagship after seeing the newer smartphones released this year. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure to sub to the channel for more Android content, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.